Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 93.3 Real Talk Radio and, of course, Warchant TV. If you're watching, you should know we appreciate you watching, and you'll be in the chat and all that good stuff. But, it's not live. This isn't live. You're listening to this now. We recorded it this morning because I'm on my way to Montana. Happy Libations Friday, everybody. Loosey-goosey edition of the show, and the reason we have to go about things the way we do today is A, I'm going out of town, and B, sorry-ass Florida lost yesterday in the first round of the SEC tournament, and because they did, they're not on the airwaves this afternoon as they were scheduled to be, but I was scheduled to be out of town, so it didn't make much of a difference. But we want to do a show for you on a Libations Friday, have fun with it, and have a little chat. So we're going to do that over the next couple of hours as we're wont to do. We appreciate you joining us one more time. Previously recorded program today. We won't keep beating you over the head of that. You know what I found out, Tom? I know that's a rule, an FCC rule. You got to let people know when things aren't live. Some shows, and I just came across it the other day for the first time. I was flipping around. I bought a new car. I bought my wife a Subaru. And anyhow, I was in there pre-programming because, I'm big on the pre-programming. I want everything to be set up the way it's supposed to be. And I was scanning through radio stations. Away from talk radio, I don't really listen to radio stations anymore. I mean, who does, right? Unless you're listening to talk radio.
Yeah, there's not much use for it, period.
So, if you're an advertiser, you should never advertise on anything but talk radio or podcasts. There's really no reason for you to, truthfully, because who the hell is waiting for a DJ to play a song? Not even that DJ anymore. It's been taken out of his hands, or hers. So the point would be, I was scanning through these radio stations that exist that I forgot exist, and there was a really bad show on, by the way, on X101.5, and they quickly there's a little thing that just goes previously recorded, and that was it. That's all they said.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Like they don't. It's a snippet. It's a tiny little thingy.
Also, a minor note. I'm really I was chuckling over here because when we were not on yesterday, it was because of SEC basketball. But since we're on today, it's screw Florida because it's the Florida Gators radio network, and the Gators suck, and they blew that game. So I like how we changed the descriptors. Yes. So correct. Way to play Texas A&M, Florida. Good for you.
Yeah. Well, those two things can both be true. That we were not on yesterday because thankfully our station carried inexplicably the SEC basketball tournament, and we're on. And Florida sucks.
The Gators radio network.
Yeah.
It was Mick Huber on the call yesterday, and he's hitting the golf course a little early this year.
I'm sure he's pleased. He doesn't want to watch that basketball team. They're terrible, just like our team is terrible. It's a tough year in the state of Florida for basketball. Miami tried to lose to Boston College yesterday. Who gives up a layup to lose a game? How do you give up a layup?
Well, if you're in a position where a layup could beat you, that means you tried harder than we did in the first round. I don't know.
I give Boston College
enough about that. I don't know why we're not. If the program's at a higher standard, shouldn't we be more mad about lackadaisical efforts?
Yeah, but how many times can you beat a dead horse? We've documented it. I mean, he's got to blow it up. I'll talk about this team in a second, and we can talk about, not just the poor effort, that matters, but what he's got to do moving forward. I'll tell you what I'm more mad about. Why did everybody fall all over themselves to praise Buddy Boeheim? What in the world are we doing around here? I don't care if that kid is out saving the homeless, flying overseas to help those in war-torn countries. He punched a guy in the chest. What are we talking about? Of course he has to be suspended. Why is everybody going, oh, that's ridiculous? Like Mike Krzyzewski came out and defended him yesterday.
Well, that's not a surprise. I mean, it's in victory for Mike, first of all. And secondly, that's the guy who he let ride his coattails to win a gold medal on the bench with him.
But I'm like, okay, look, these two things can be true. I don't know Buddy Boeheim from a hole in the wall. Maybe he is a good kid. By all accounts, apparently he is. But you can't just turn because you got boxed out and be a bitch about it and decide to punch somebody and not have repercussions. What are we doing?
If he's a good kid, it's in spite of his dad. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, his dad is cantankerous. I don't know if he's a bad human being. He is cantankerous. He's annoying.
There's a pedestrian that was on the road in Syracuse that might agree with me. That's all I'm saying.
I don't remember that. I'm sorry. I don't
Whoa,
remember that.
vehicular incident. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I forgot all about it. Then you're right. Look, I'm not going out of my way to defend the Boeheims. Everybody did yesterday. Good God Almighty. It was unreal the amount of times I had. Listen, I knew Ham was going to say what he was going to say. I don't know that I would go that far as he went in defending Buddy Boeheim, but fine. Okay. Ham is always going to do that. He's never going to, I think, exacerbate the issue. He's going to want to move forward and put the emphasis on the game itself and the players that won the game. So he didn't want to get distracted from that. Fine, but I don't know why Wyatt Wilkes recorded a video from his hotel room to tell everybody that he thinks Buddy Boeheim's a good kid and it was really nothing. Don't worry about it, man. Come on, look, we don't have to. The Syracuse people love Wyatt. They're like, oh, you're a great young man. It shows great intelligence on your part. This has nothing to do with intelligence. Nothing to do with intelligence. It has nothing to do with being a good sport. Look, the video speaks for itself. My man turned because he got boxed out and he didn't like it. He lost position and he swung and hit him in the stomach. Okay, is it the end of the world? No. Have I done something similar in sports? Yes. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I mean, I've lost my cool. Fine, we all have. It's happened, right? So we're not going to make too much of it. But don't pretend like it didn't happen and that there aren't repercussions for doing so. There are.
Well, and like it's a great sin that he was not on the court yesterday to help Syracuse win that basketball game. That's the other thing. I mean, Jay Billis went to Twitter and said that it's wrong, that if the officials don't call it in the moment, then he shouldn't be suspended retroactively. Nah, man, that's not how that works. Let me tell you about a sport named hockey, in which the toughest players in the world participate in that sport. People with broken limbs playing through Stanley Cup playoffs. If there's a gross miss by the officials, a high stick, a check into the boards from behind, whatever, they retroactively suspend dudes all the time. And that's the toughest sport in the world. In the NFL, if you hit somebody in the head, helmet to helmet, you're going to get fined on Tuesday, whether or not you were penalized on the play. This retroactive stuff happens all the time, whether the officials miss it on the court at the time or not. And Ira was right. I saw his tweet yesterday. Nobody has complained more about bad officiating this year in print, in broadcast, than Jay Billis. He hates college basketball officiating. In this case, they got it right. So it's not like Syracuse was held back yesterday because they were penalized for something that didn't happen. That's exactly what should have happened. Karma, man.
That's my point. And by the way, they weren't going to win the game anyhow. I'll just say this: you can say that, hey, it's not the grossest form of misconduct ever in a basketball game before, and that it's not something that needs to be relitigated for 2 and 3 and 4 days, while also understanding that there are repercussions for your actions. It's on video. You can't pretend it didn't happen. He didn't inadvertently swing his arm. I heard somebody say that inadvertently. What the hell are you looking at?
Jim Boeheim said that.
Yeah, well, Jim Boeheim said it immediately after the game. People had time to watch 15 different angles and replays, and they still were like, well, I don't know, it looked inadvertent. It did? Well, then, hey, by all means, let's take carte blanche with the rules here. I'm going to inadvertently punch lots of people in the face if that's inadvertent, and if that's the new definition. But the point is, and again, I didn't even really mean to lead with this. It's just, it was nauseating yesterday to see people fall all over themselves during the course of the ACC tournament trying to defend Buddy Boeheim. I'm not saying he's a bad kid. I'm not saying he's a bad dude. I'm not saying that, it's a shame, whatever, but he did it. And that's what happens.
Yeah, I put it out yesterday on Twitter. I had two very different feelings about that game when it was over. Number one, it was karma. Haha. Now you can wonder what if forever, and you suffered the first losing season in Syracuse history since 1960, whatever.
Yeah.
First for Boeheim, right, as the head coach, and his two sons were on the team. And he even dogged them in the post-game press conference, and he was talking about how they're not really that good of players, but they just try hard. I'm like, oh, wow. Stay on brand, man. And he said he's coming back next year because he's so petty. But the other part of me was a little bit jealous of how they played that game and finished that season. Whether, it's a crappy basketball team. It's a crappy basketball program. They care about it up there, but that's what it's devolved into. but they had something to be proud of because they came to Brooklyn, they tried hard for 2 games, and they had the lead with 3 minutes to go. If we follow that exact same scenario, FSU beats Syracuse, whether it's by 50 or by 5, and then you play Duke down to the wire, we're holding our heads so much higher on a Friday about what this program did in spite of all the injuries. Instead, they didn't even care to get on the plane, and we wasted money going up there. So that's where I was conflicted. I was glad Syracuse lost. I don't really root for Duke, but I was glad Syracuse lost because of the circumstances of our game. But then I was also a little jealous because they ended on a better note than we did.
Here's what I think. I think this team, we found out over the course of the year, this is going to be one of those things where competing things can be true or simultaneously. Do we love Leonard Hamilton? Do we think he's created a great culture? Do we love this coaching staff? Have they found a way to grow a program that by rights shouldn't be nearly as competitive in a basketball-centric conference as they are? Yes, yes, yes. Check, check, check. We all agree. Did this coaching staff have to deal with an awful lot this year that was not of their own making in the way of injury? Yep. Nobody deserves that. That sucks. When you lose starter after starter after starter and then depth guy, and you have to play all these young guys, it's going to mean that you have a lot of up and down, disjointed performances. So you get a nod and an understanding, knowing nod from me about the circumstances. Did you also do a poor job this year? Yep. That can be true too. They did, because I think it starts before they ever tip the basketball in game 1. I think it goes back to the kids that you brought in and the guys you swung for and missed. Like that you made a run at 4 or 5 guys that, had you got, would have, I think, resulted in the plan moving forward of not playing so many of these young players the minutes that he did, and allowing for growth over time like he likes to do. But by not getting any of those guys, any of them, then you had to play these guys who were emotionally immature, physically immature in some cases, and it led to an erosion, even if for a singular season, of that culture. And that is a problem now that you're going to have to deal with, and the manner in which you deal with it will be extremely fascinating to document for us as talk show hosts and givers of opinion on a daily basis. Because I will tell you, I think he's got a real problem on his hand. Of the people that I talk to, and I've got pretty good sources for basketball, I think most of you out there know that over the years, he's got hard decisions, Tom. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to reveal things I shouldn't. I'm just going to say he's got really tough decisions, and they involve a lot of those young players. And I'm curious how many of those guys come back. I wouldn't be shocked if several of them are not. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I am saying there has to be a reckoning. There has to be a come to Jesus moment, because you're right to point out, not just in this game, which was putrid, but several others this year. Well, 3 others this year. I count 3 where effort can be questioned. The old not trying thing that we talk about. That can never happen. And when it does, if you a man with lesser cachet, admittedly, we'd come out hard. But because Leonard has an awful lot of cachet and success, tangible success, as well as proof of a culture winning, right? That's what he's done around here for a very long time. Then you're going to trust him on this one in the offseason. Because you're right to point out that was a non-effort. And I think that's born only from a group who doesn't respect the program's history or each other or themselves. I mean, if you do that, I tell this to my kid all the time, my oldest kid. He's a hardhead. He's a brilliant kid, but he's a hard-headed kid. And I've had to break a couple things down for him. And eventually I came back to one thing. I said, don't do this for me. Don't do this for your mother. Don't do this for the adults in the life that tell you that you have to do this in order to get to where you want to go in the world. Have some respect for yourself. What you do on a daily basis in the classroom, on the basketball court, whatever reflects on you. Have some respect for yourself. So when I see these kids not try, not put forth effort, on scholarship at Florida State, a program that's gone to back Sweet 16s. That's on them, man. That shows a lack of character.
Right. Thank you.
It's a scathing indictment.
There we go. I felt like because we have so much respect, and rightfully so, for Leonard, I even hear it in conversations that I've had away from this program, just talking to FSU fans. What are you going to do? No, man, no. The stakes are higher now. We have come to a different place as a basketball program. And I'm not saying that it's on Leonard to be, fired or anything crazy like that. But what I'm saying is, are we passionate about this sport or are we not? And I feel like the way this season went down the tubes, the apathy was setting in. And that's just so weird to me because there are reasons that you lose basketball games. If effort is one of them, you have a right to be furious with this team. But I question now, how passionate were we really, or were we front runners? Because I think there should be more people really fired up about this. But there isn't. I mean, if you look at the traffic for basketball stuff, it's just not there. So
yeah, but it's not there. It's not there, Tom, when they win either. This is not a basketball school. Our fans suck for the most part. Our fans are not great basketball fans at all, and they never have been. And even when they're given reason to, they bitch. I mean, when they're given reason to celebrate a program, they bitch. They complain. Now, listen, have they done a good job with the students? Has Florida State students stepped up? Yep. And I give them all the credit in the world. I used to rag our students back in the day forever. I'd come on the air and rip them. They're the only thing holding up the collective basketball fandom for Florida State are those students. They're passionate. They get there early. They're involved, and they know when to cheer. They know how to they do a great job. The TLC, as I affectionately call it, did start to get packed and did become a difference maker. So I can hear people right now going, wait a minute, Jeff, you can't say our fans suck and then at the same time praise the atmosphere of the TLC and call it one of the best home courts in the ACC. It's true, we did that. But I always questioned, and I think we saw the answer this year, Tom, what it would take. And it didn't seem like it would take much, right? I always thought brewing just under the surface was a collective, screw this, let's go back to watching football and baseball or whatever. I always thought it was there because we've never seemingly appreciated even the successes, right? We've never even really realized from whence we came. And that frustrates me. And it also speaks to kind of a collective disconnect. And I think that's just because we don't invest in basketball emotionally. Now I'm not saying there aren't pockets of people who have a great understanding of the game. I'm not talking down to anybody. If you're listening to this and you're a passionate basketball fan and you watch these games and you appreciate what Leonard's done and you go to the games and you understand the game, I'm not talking to you. But I am saying, here's my favorite phrase, on the whole, Florida State's basketball fan base sucks.
There we go. It's wiped up on the video screen. We do have the hashtag saved for the on the whole.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, agreed.
I'm just telling you that, Tom.
Well, especially outside of the town. With Noles grads. They will invest in the tournament, but they won't engage on the ups and downs or in the ups and downs of the regular season. Now, I will say this one thing, that multiple things, once again, can be true. If this season crashed and burned because, and we saw it, just when you get one player back, two more are hurt, and it felt like that's what was happening all season long. And interest level wanes gradually and naturally that way, okay, I can understand it. But when you have left us the final taste in our mouth so bitter with not trying, that can't be part of the DNA of this program. And that's where, for me, it's different. Like, it's to get to 10 wins and finish the season the way you did with 3 consecutive ACC victories. You win back-to-back at home over Notre Dame and NC State to close out the season at TLC. Like, all that is great, and it looks like there's growth. But then you have this massive setback. That's where I think that this ACC tournament game was not meaningless. It tells you that it's not fixed. Whatever's going on is not fixed. And if quit is in your DNA, that is not acceptable. And that's where people, I think everybody had thrown their hands up to the sky and said, the season's over anyway. No, not when you quit. I know I'm redundant at this point, but I think it bears repeating because that's not a hallmark of a Leonard Hamilton program. We could point to one other example in history that we saw it. It was Booker's last game against Georgia Tech. You know how long ago that was? That's forever ago. Mm-hmm. There was that one night, and we were furious then, and we should be furious now about it. He's got a lot of work to do in the offseason.
Well, I think and we'll put a ribbon on this. It is worth vetting, and it is a conversation that is interesting in my mind because it did come out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know that any of us thought that we'd worry about a team, quitting. Not under Hamilton. We didn't think that would happen. So it is noteworthy. But I also think, as far as fans go, it's hard to invest emotionally or otherwise and care if you don't think the kids do. So if somewhere along the way this season, and there was more than one opportunity to do so, if you're a fan and you're watching and you're like, I'm not real sure they care to be here, and so you check out, I got it.
Yeah, I'll tell you that I was watching the North Carolina game with 15 other Noles in the clubhouse at our beloved CCCC, Capital City Country Club. And the pin drop on a carpet could have been heard in that room with the fury of the North Carolina. It was 24-1.
Yes.
24-1. That can be only a one-time deal, if ever, and it wasn't this year. And so that's where I can understand people shutting down. Like, just don't let this happen again next year. We've worked too damn hard, or he has, excuse me. No, not we. He has worked too damn hard to build this thing up to something that we are very, very proud of. Please don't let it careen into the side of the mountain again next year. Whoever needs to go, I don't care what class they are, freshmen through seniors, let them go. Get them out of here.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It'll be an interesting and eventful off season. Don't let your health go careening into the side of the mountain. No. Make sure you keep it together. When you get back from spring break, let's tighten it up, everybody. Orange Theory Fitness. Let's get it together. Orange Theory Fitness. There's 2 locations in town. I got Orange Theory Fitness. I got to go more. I got to get back to going more. My calf is fully healed. I mentioned it yesterday on the show, day before, whenever it was. We did the 2,000-meter row just to see where you're at. It's a benchmark row. And my time was not my best time. Wasn't a bad time, but it was not my best time. So I've got goals when we come back from spring break. Got to get after it.
What is your best time?
6:50 or something like that.
That's moving.
Yeah, it's moving. But I wasn't anywhere close to 6:50 yesterday, the other day. But I'll tell you this much: in order to do it, you got to get your physio up. You got to get your cardio to a place where you can sustain a pretty good clip in terms of strokes. Hey now. So you got to get that up. And I'm looking forward to doing it when we get back. So Orange Theory Fitness, 2 locations in town, science-backed. It's proven to work, man. Interval training works. They use it. Professional sports, they use it right here at Florida State. So Orange Theory Fitness, go check them out. First class is always free. Also, if you buy a heart rate monitor, that first month is free. That's a real savings. I mean, that's doing some things. Orange Theory Fitness. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Florida State Baseball getting ready to start. Go Noles. I'm excited about that series. I'll be keeping tabs on it through my travels. That's a series against Wake Forest that might tell us something. May not. We'll see. But we talked at the end of last hour, certainly, about the pitching matchup, and I'm excited. I'm excited to watch this team grow. I want to see if they can carry over their success from the other night, Tom. They were not a swing and miss team the other night, just a total of 6 strikeouts, which in the modern game, especially in college, is not terrible. I can live with that. But the weekend previous was a lot of swing and miss, and had me concerned, even though they won this series against Cal because of their pitching, and they had a great Saturday against Cal. With 2 prodigious home runs. They did have an awful lot of swing and miss that resembled last year's baseball team. So I'm just holding my breath week to week that this doesn't emerge as a similar type lineup where, they're feast or famine, and there's an awful lot of famine. That's my hope. Let's hope that they are a much more active and productive, because it feeds into what their philosophy is. It feeds into if you get on base, they're going to put guys in motion. If they're in college, I always say this, and this, Tom. It's one of the negatives about the sport. College baseball, if you put the ball in play, you got a chance to be very, very successful. Teams don't always bounce back from that. I'm getting an echo here for some reason. Don't know why that is. Hopefully that changes here in a second. But yeah, put the ball in play, get on base, put the wheels in motion.
Well, this is going to be a nice little stretch in terms of variety of opponent, skill of opponent. You got Wake Forest this weekend. You've got Florida on Tuesday. Then we host Bethune-Cookman on Wednesday. So a double midweek game during spring break. That's interesting. Gainesville is the location for Tuesday's game. Tallahassee, Bethune-Cookman on Wednesday of next week. And then we host NC State for 3. And NC State's been okay as a program. So, and by the time you get back and we talk and convene on Monday, March 21st, that's what you want to continue to see is improvement with the strikeout rate. It's down several percent over last year, but still against better opponents, we're not so sure yet. The sample size isn't large enough to say that the issue is clear. The number that I was looking at too this season, and I was really interested in, was unearned runs that cross home plate, because that would tell me a better story about how many errors we're making. I know we've got the pitching that can pitch around it, but this year, only 3. I had it at 4 as of last week, based upon some things that happened at Cal, but I guess it wasn't ruled that way in the scores table. Only 3 unearned runs have crossed the plate this year against FSU. That is huge improvement over last year. You feel pretty good. It's not just about what we've got at shortstop, and Carry-On can really pick it.
Yeah,
he's got a third baseman's arm or a Frank Core type arm in right field. For the college game, that dude is unbelievable with the range he's got. But we're better across the board defensively. So the pitching and the defense are much better. Base running up and down, strikeout count at the plate still a little bit high, but they've answered a lot of questions. You've just got to continue to carry this on. And like I said, while I'm really interested to see what happens this weekend up at Wake, what Montgomery does next Tuesday when he goes down to Gainesville is something I really want to see. Is this the next step? And do you have a debate about who your Sunday starter is because you've got too many good starters? Or is it something that, well, we enjoy the performance against Gulf Coast, but he's still got a ways to go because that kid's really talented, and he could be a future Friday or Saturday night guy for you next year if he continues to develop.